My dad literally, with not even a high school education, went to the library for the next 2 years and taught himself how to start a professional corporation
Mm-hmm.
and not infringe on any of the corporate laws of practicing medicine.
Mm.
So that's how the dental support organization was started in this country. So we had the PC.
So just and I don't want to gloss over that. There's two businesses that you named there. So one of them was the dental side, and the
Mhm.
other one was the support side.
Correct.
And from your perspective, that's the first DSO, right?
Yep. So Dr. Topor, Daniel Topor, Topor, was the first PC, the professional licensed dentist for Upstate Management PC. I mean, for Upstate Dental Health PC.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Upstate Dental Management Services became the management company for Dr. Topor.
Mm.
So all the money from the insurance companies and all the money from the patients go into the PC account, which is owned and licensed by Dr. Topor, and only licensed professionals see patients, and that's how they can accept money.
And then
And then
what year is this?
1980.
Okay, so in
And
1980, this is the first DSO. I imagine your dad probably caught some flack for doing that, right? Like probably everybody wasn't on board. Walk me through some of the things he had to deal with and had to navigate.
sure, we did all through the 80s when we started opening locations. Different attorneys would come and say, you can't do this. You're not a dentist. You can't own a building. You can't own equipment. You can't lease this out to a dentist, or you can't do any non-professional services for a professional corporation. And that's where really the rubber hit the road. So that was the biggest impasse. And since we were a non-professional company, Upstate Dental Management Services, we did all non-professional administrative duties. And Dr. Topor hired us as his management company to handle all those non-professional duties. So that was the biggest challenge. I was a hockey player for the 10 years through the 80s. Ironically enough, I tell everybody I played semi-pro and pro hockey. And I tell everybody, ironically enough, I spent the first 10 years of my career knocking people's teeth out, and the rest of my career helping to put them
I
back
haven't
in.
heard that one yet. That needs to be on your T-shirt. That's a good one,
Yep.
RJ. So how did you guys? Because I know you guys expanded, right? So you weren't just one location. Walk me through you guys' expansion, how and eventually what that turned into.
Sure, pretty interesting. So when we opened that first location in Syracuse, literally my dad was he was a lab tech.
Mm-hmm.
He was also the office manager. My mom ran the front desk. My sister Kathy was a hygienist, just became a licensed hygienist. And my sister Debbie and my sister Shelly and my sister Cynthia all worked at different capacities at the front desk, dental assisting, like I said, hygiene. My sister Kathy married a denture technician by the name of Billy Matwijik. So literally our whole family was riding in this station wagon K car. So if you remember the K cars, they had these station wagon K cars. We had Upstate Dental Management on the door, and we would ride from Rome to Syracuse every day. And this particular day, it was in November, right about now. Back then, we were all in the car together, and an 18-wheeler in this snowstorm blew us off the road into a ditch. And my mother looked at my father and said, Richard, I think we're going to have to get more than one car because they almost killed the whole company. And so from that day on, in the summertime, so my brother-in-laws all came to work for us. And they worked in different capacity. Denture technician, my brother-in-law Bill. My brother-in-law Tim was the maintenance and construction. My other brother-in-law Tim, another Tim, was also in management, working with me. So I would come home every summer, and I would, through the 80s, and I would work with my different brother-in-laws, either constructing locations or refurbishing equipment or working in the insurance processing department or working in the marketing department. There was a few years there that I got home early in the spring when we lost in the playoffs, and I had a few stitches in my face. So they used to keep me in the back. So I would work in the insurance department and the marketing department and the accounting department until I looked presentable to do consultations and work as the office manager. But for those 10 years in the 80s up until 89, I worked in a different capacity in the office, in the labs, making dentures, doing almost every single thing that needed to be done. And so when I retired in 1989, I came on board full time, and I was in
And
a 2 year
you
training.
retired from hockey,
I
right?
retired from hockey for
Okay.
10
Yeah.
years.
So you retired from
Um,
hockey, and then so you came on to the dental organization full time.
yes, sir, in
Okay.
89. And then I went through a 2 year extensive training program, opening locations. So what I would do is I would act as the office manager. I would go, for instance, Hartford, Connecticut. So I was sent to Hartford, Connecticut in the early 80s after my training program. And I was sent there and tasked to open a dozen offices in Connecticut. So I started in West Hartford, Connecticut, and I would find a strip mall or a building. We would purchase the building or lease in the strip mall. I would act as the general contractor. So I would pull all the permits. I would hire all the subs. I literally put a card table in the waiting room before it was even built, and all the advertisers that would come in and meet me there, all the dentists and hygienists and dental assistants and office managers and lab techs would come and interview with me at that card table why the entire place was being constructed.
And you
After
were
that,
doing these in strip malls, right?
yes, sir.
So
And
which was there any other dentist doing that at the time?
no dentist in any strip malls. There were
Yep.
still 95% of the industry when we started opening locations in the 80s were comprised of sole practitioners practicing in a residential space. And we can get into that later on the
Yeah.
history on how they got to that residential space
Yep.
and how a lot of them are still in that residential space today. Um, so when we go back to the program, I would go in, act as the GC. I would pull permits. I would hire all the personnel. We would open the location. I would act as the office manager, train the office manager and the staff, and then I would go to the next location. So I opened West Hartford, Connecticut, Danbury, Connecticut, Glastonbury, Connecticut, all over Connecticut.